and I want to be a tough guy, and I look up to gangsters and tough guys. 14 years old, I'm living that life, trying to be that guy, and would fight at the drop of a dime. Look at me, let's go. And that was the culture.
By the way, I want to point something out real quick before you go. The term toxic masculinity gets thrown out a lot, right?
Yeah.
The term came from in the 90s when you and I were growing up. Prisoners, violent felons in prison, whenever they would go to escalate, you stepped on my shoe, I'm going to stab you. Yeah. That was where the term toxic masculinity came from. Then what happened afterwards is psychiatrists got a hold of that word and they start using it for anything that they disagree with. So
that's a bunch of bullshit.
Like global warming, toxic masculinity. Higher taxes, it's because of toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Men are not making it in the workforce, it's because of toxic masculinity. Men die from COVID more than women, it's because of toxic masculinity. Anyway, I just want to bring that up because when you said that you were down to fight all the time, that's actually where the term comes from. It doesn't come from just a man wanting to be a normal masculine human.
Yeah, no doubt. And it makes sense because a lot of my world were people that were in and out of prison, parolees, hanging out with my dad, and, all that. And so, yeah, very familiar. But, Oxycontin turned to heroin, 15 years old. I drop out of high school. From 15 till just about 22, I'm ripping and running. Selling drugs, doing drugs, robbing drug dealers, in and out of jail. I OD 5 times. I end up on life support. I get stabbed a couple times. I get shot at. I get my head split open by a crowbar by a gang in Massachusetts, Hispanic gang. I'm going through it, dude. I'm crashing cars. And I'm getting in all sorts of trouble all the time. So
you've talked about this on other podcasts. I'm curious about a couple of things. The one time you talk about robbing a drug dealer, you did it with a knife and you robbed a dude for $82.
That was the last event, the last pivotal moment. My life changed the next day.
Were there other times where did you ever rob anybody? Like you think of like Omar from The Wire, right? The drug dealer who robs drug dealers.
Yeah.
Was it ever like that? Were you ever like
absolutely like
you were hitting up? You knew where the stash was because you see where the kid
Kicking
comes
the
out.
door in, coming in with a couple of my homies, tying people up and taking the stash.
So that was a common thing?
For sure.
Drug dealers robbing drug dealers? I mean, who are you going to call afterwards, right? You can't call the cops, so.
The funny thing is the kid that I robbed for $82 did call the cops.
Yeah, he just didn't say that he robbed you at a drug deal.
He broke the rules.
Yeah.
But no, most of the time, the street handles the street stuff.
Yeah.
And the cops are the least of your worries.
So
we were doing all that.
And I remember, like, on the show, like, again, you're watching these dudes on the corner. Yeah. And then you're just like, well, I know when to set these guys up. I know when they do the re-up or whatever like that. And this is something that you were doing with your crew?
That wasn't exactly, similar.
Yeah.
The
other thing,
who's doing what on the street. You pay attention, you watch them.
The thing where you get hit in the head by a crowbar, what goes on there?
I had a leader of a Hispanic gang in Massachusetts had a younger brother that was about my age, and I had a beef with him. And I had the kid set up, and then I found him, and I fought him, and I beat the piss out of him. And a couple days went by, and I was at my house, and I was laid out high as a kite, kind of nodding out in a recliner, and my front door came off the hinges. I had 15 gang members roll in, beat the shit out of me, stomped me, and right when I thought it was over, I kind of came up like, all right, guys, you got me? It's just in time for like a 3-foot crowbar. Ding. If you look behind my ear, my whole shit's fucked up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, put me out for like 2 days. That happened on a Monday night. I woke up on Wednesday.
That's crazy, man.
It was crazy.
That's great. Let me ask you, after that, are you guys still beefing? What happens from that point forward? You just want, like, because that is one of the issues, right, in these situations, because I grew up around drug dealers. Yeah. And, like, some of the times these beefs never end.
It never ends. The beef was part of daily life.
Yes.
Like, it was no start and stop to it. It was like you're beefing with this one, you're beefing with that one. They get you, you get them. It was just
there's no signing a truce at the end.
Yeah, I mean, we're honestly going a little more in depth into the life that I normally did, and I'm impressed you did your homework.
Yeah.
Normally I talk about addiction, but the addiction is kind of the front. Like, I was addicted to drugs.
Yeah.
More than just the heroin was the life.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up with bangers, and that's the reason why. In East Dallas,
you understand it. I get it.
And it was such an epic, like in Southwest Dallas, Oak Cliff was the murder capital of the country.
Oak Cliff.
Yeah, back in like 1990.
Yeah, it's bad out there.
And I would go play Madden at my homeboy's house, not realizing I'm sitting in a trap house.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, why are somebody banging on the back door? Why do you have, bro? You're 16 years old and you got cameras out the back of your house. What are you doing? Yeah. Unscrewing the fucking potted plant, pulling the dope out, screwing the bitch back on, and then going out. And then like, why are these people smoking in the back room? I didn't understand what was going on. I was fucking 14 years old playing. I just want to play Madden. And it was just one of these things where I watched, and all of them are in prison, except for like 2 of them. All of them went to prison, 10 years, longer than that for possession, and resisting arrest, like stuff like that. It was just crazy stuff that would go on. And so when I heard this part of it, it was just very interesting because that reality was different. I didn't know a single person who did heroin. It was crack. It was crack everywhere. And when I went to clubs with white people, it was powder.
Yeah.
That was powder and it was Molly. That was all I saw. And then when I hear about the stuff in the Northeast, I didn't know what fentanyl was. I had any idea about that. So that's why that part is very interesting.
I thank God that I got sober years before fentanyl came out. I would have died.
Yeah.
You know, the only reason I think I made it out is because I was out before that happened.
You mentioned, I thought this was an interesting idea because we were talking about listening to gangster music. You listen to gangster music, you have a BB gun. You roll around on the streets with your BB gun on your bicycle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I was a badass kid,
Yeah.
man. Like, a lot of people tell their recovery story and they're like, you know, I had great morals and I was a functioning addict and, you know, I was just addicted to drugs. I was like obsessed with being like a terrible kid. Like,
Yeah.
I watched gangster movies and rooted for the bad guy. You know, I had a CO2 pellet gun. I was 10 years old, rolling around on my bike, worried about getting robbed by older kids in my neighborhood. And so if they tried me, I'd shoot them with my PB gun. And that's how it started out.
I think it's a unique thing with American cinema, where between The Godfather, American Gangster, Goodfellas, where we it's really funny because when you go back and watch Casino, the attorney in Casino is Oscar Goodman, who's the mayor of Las Vegas.
Yep.
Like that's where we put our gangsters in this country. Like we see them as the most popular TV show of all time at the time was The Sopranos,
Yep.
where we were actually able to look into the life of someone who would be the bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And it was interesting the way Breaking Bad, right?
Yep.
These are other examples of this where we wanted to glorify this lifestyle. So it's interesting when you're a kid and you see that, and then you listen to NWA or you watch, you know, Casino or Goodfellas, like how you get sucked into that, right?
Totally.
And it's helpful. And the girls liked it too. That was the other thing, you know, it made it kind of hard is because the girls like those dudes too, which made it even harder to.
Those were the cool guys that I knew. The coolest guys were like the baddest guys, and they were like the top guys. And so that's what I wanted to be. If I grew up in a neighborhood with CEOs and successful guys driving nice cars, and that's who all the girls wanted, then I would have wanted to be a CEO. But that wasn't where I came from.